I think the starting point is the third quarter GDP numbers, which were quite good. Year over year, 2.7% growth, 2.8 in the third quarter at an annual rate, bolstered by strong household spending and strong government spending. The only, Achilles heel in that report is light on business fixed investment, something I always keep an eye on. But on the whole, a very strong report. And you complement that with a big jump in consumer confidence early in October that suggests that the households are going to continue to be spending their money. You get a jobs report from ADP at 230,000 jobs, another big number in the labor market. And then you get the PCE report, and that's the only thing that makes me, have a little pause, which is core PCE year over year at 2.7 has been stuck there for 4 months. And so if you look at inflation expectations, a year out there, 2.5 to 3, inflation's at 2.5. We've sort of settled into a 2.5% rut. And the question is, will we see continued progress toward 2%, or will the Fed essentially go on hold? But I think the right way to think about it, if you listen to the spooky list that you went through there at the lead into this segment, the economy is not the spooky thing. It's the policy risk that's surrounded. If you're trying to figure out where you're going, it's all about what will the Fed do, and in particular, what will the candidates do, who will win, and how will the Fed have to react to, for example, a 10% across-the-board tariff. That's hard to game that out.
Does that mean we've got a quarter point in the bag for next week? Douglas, I ask you that because Joe Biden put out a statement on the PCE data. He says inflation has now fallen to 2.1%, nearly at its 2% target, but we have more to do.
Well, I think that, many presidents try to box the Fed in. Good luck with that. They're going to do their job. I was among those who was surprised to see them go 50 basis points and thought that when they did that, they really gave themselves the option to go more slowly later. The day after the election, when it may not even really be settled, and we've seen these recent strong data, it might be a good day to stay on hold. We'll see.
Okay, so that's the monetary policy side of this equation. To get back to the fiscal side, though, which could obviously be dramatically impacted depending on who wins these many races on Tuesday, Douglas, we've heard from Elon Musk and Donald Trump reiterating what Elon Musk said in the last week, that if he is appointed the head of this government efficiency commission or whatever you want to call it, could cut $2 trillion in government spending. Is that really possible?
I will be 6'4" and have a full head of hair before that happens. There's just no way. This is a nice talking point, but who is going to give him that authority? The president doesn't have the authority to give a private citizen an axe and say, go after the federal agencies. The Congress of the United States would have to pass a law that produced a commission that he could lead that had those authorities. And that is never going to happen. They created the programs that he's talking about cutting out. They put in place the personnel that he's talking about axing out. No. This is campaign talk that should be interpreted as no more than campaign talk.
Well, considering your former life at CBO, we thought maybe you could score this idea, because Elon Musk told people in the crowd yesterday, why, if you're laughing, that's not a good sign, because Elon Musk says we're going to be in for some pain. Douglas, what's it going to feel like?
So if suppose you just did the exercise where you had a commission that could recommend things, they would have to recommend the near elimination of half the government in order to reach that $2 trillion target. They've taken off limits, Social Security and Medicare. Remember, the candidate Trump has said he's not touching those. Those are, by themselves, over half of non-interest spending over the next 10 years. So you got to take on the other half of the government and decimate it. I think some Republicans are going to want to hold on to the Defense Department. I'm just guessing. And, it seems unlikely that you could get anything through Congress to enact this commission's proposals. So, I'm now officially old. I remember the Grace Commission. I remember the great claims that were going to be made about how it changed the trajectory of the federal bureaucracy forever. And as I sit here in 2024, it doesn't look like it did much, and this won't either.
Well, if we're just still gaming out like the hypothetical math here, even if you were to do all of that, could you pay for the tax cuts Donald Trump has put forward, the very long list of the tax either cuts or breaks, even if you were to do all of that, get rid of the Defense Department or what have you?
Look, there is so little specificity, and there's one that happens
Sure.
every day. I don't know what he's proposed today. I'm not sure we're going to have a tax base by Tuesday. He has given away the store on a daily basis. So, you know, it's nothing like a sound tax policy platform. He wants to simultaneously extend the 27 Act or the 17 Act and do a bunch of other things. They're going to have to step back and restart. And I guess, you know, I understand campaigns. I've been on a campaign. I understand the politics of trying to collect votes as you go to the finish line. But it's important to recognize that he wants to get a deal on 17. That would be his signature accomplishment. Did it in his first term, renewed it in his second term. Every time he makes a proposal, let's not tax overtime, let's not tax, let's get rid of the SALT cap, he creates a constituency that makes it harder to extend that, makes it harder to renew it.
Yep.
And so he is working at odds with what he needs next year.
It is true. The appropriations folks that we talk to are getting some anxiety every time Donald Trump announces another exemption at the podium here. Kamala Harris has had her share of them as well, Douglas. And as a creature of Washington, you know what the conventional wisdom is. The House, they say, will turn Democratic. The Senate will turn Republican. In that world, neither of them likely get any of their proposals passed, right?
I think the new proposals, so, you know, the Harris proposals on taxing capital gains and the like, they're non-starters in that world. I think the Trump proposals are the same way. My concern is they will revert to form and just buy each other off, and we'll do the extended spending that the Democrats want. We'll extend all the tax cuts without paying for them, and we'll be in a fiscal mess. And so that's really worth looking out for.
My God. Well, you know, that is
I'm
a
the cheery guy to
distinct
have
reality.
on Halloween, right?
Well,
Yeah, this has been fun.
You want to one up us on spooky?
Honestly,
I think you won, Douglas.
No, but honestly, one of the things to watch for is when really pressed for time, and it's going to be tight next year. They got a lot going on, and not knowing really what to do, they revert to form and do what they did before, and they have done that before, so they could easily kick the whole decision out 2 years and try again.